crazy. I started out, I was not a Kines major, PE major. I love history. I was going to be a history teacher. And at the end of my third year in college, I got a job working with the rec department back home. Grew up in New Orleans, down below New Orleans. And I got to coach the 16 and under parish, which is the same as counties in other states, all-star team in the state playoffs, girls, softball. I went back that year and changed my major to physical education. I was hooked. I loved coaching. Those kids were great, and they changed the course of my life. I loved being in Commerce. I have so many friends there. I would have never left. Kayla, of course, was the big bonus. I met the love of my life, Kayla, in Commerce. And we had 3 of our kids lived with us as they went through college and graduate school there at Commerce. So it's a big part of our life, not just me, but the family. A&M Commerce is very, very special. And being included in the Hall of Fame was just lagniappe, as we say back in New Orleans, something free on top of everything else. But we would have never left had Kayla not been able to come home where her family is. They're all in this area. And so she took a job at Tarleton State. And now I'm working again after retiring, teaching physical education classes at Tarleton State University. Well, Coach Walker is, first of all, let me say, he's like a son. He lived with us for a while, but I first met Coach Walker when he was a high school player. He came down, I was at Southwestern University in Georgetown. He came for a visit. It didn't work out that he came to play with us, but I met him at that time, so when I called him later, of course, he knew who I was. And Coach Walker had had such an experience going through his 4 years. He spent 2 years with Navarro Junior College as an assistant coach, actually coaching and recruiting, and had another 2 years down at Sam Houston working in a Division I program, recruiting, running the basketball operations, and so he had a great deal of experience. And so as a young man, I gave him a call when we had an opening, and we met down in Waco at a Burger King, I think. And I told him what we had available, and he was working at another job, and he said, "I'll be there tomorrow." You know, he wanted the job. Well, he came on in and had to start his master's, and so he moved in with me. Well, the only problem with that is I was living with a couple of my kids, actually 3 at one time of my own children, and myself, and Coach Walker moved in, and we had a big dog. Big dog. We were in a 2-bedroom duplex. So Coach Walker got the opportunity to sleep on the couch, and the only problem is that dog had slept on a couch for about 8 or 10 years. So I would walk in the morning, and that dog would get between Coach Walker and the floor and push him off, and I would find him in the morning down under the coffee table a lot of times. But we had fun. It was just all the guys and my daughter Stephanie keeping us in line, and we had a great time living together. The main thing I saw in him right away was instinct. He just had great instincts, both with players and for players, but for game situations. He's blessed. It's almost something that you either have or you don't. And I've seen coaches who have made it through the years, getting by, but just don't have the instinct to run the kind of game that fits the talent, and don't read defenses well, how to attack them, and also an instinct about recruiting. Who's going to make it? Who you know, some kids would, out of smaller programs especially, have great numbers, but bad hands or trouble in a crowd, they hear footsteps, they don't function well. Coach Walker has great instincts about people, great people skills, and good instincts basketball-wise. Coach Walker and I covered a lot of miles together, and if you know, you're asking me to tell stories that sometimes I can't tell, but it was funny watching him divide his time between basketball, where his passion was, and school, which he had to get done when he was a student. And to say he was a shining example of what a student should be is a bit of a stretch, because his interest was obviously in basketball, and he knew that's where he was going to be for the rest of his life. But he did get it done, and I was proud of him for that, because we had him on the road so much of the time. Sam knows everybody in Texas in basketball. There's probably not a better acquainted on the Division I, Division II, NAI, junior college level. I doubt that there's a coach in the state of Texas that knows more coaches than Sam does. And during our time together, a lot of what transpired was we had him going. He was single during that time, and he was on the road, and he knew so many people. Just like crashing on my couch, he'd turn in expense reports, and there was never a night of lodging, because he was crashing at somebody's house every night while he was out scouting, while he was out recruiting, and so he was a great find as a coach for me, as an assistant coach. He just each year I turned more over to him. And my last couple of years coaching, he was doing more than I was. Then I became athletic director, of course, and was able to turn it all over to him. Well, I'm not doing much. I don't do much. I listen. And there are times when he has to vent, and he gives me a call. But as far as continuing to develop his talent, he's there. I know he didn't have the kind of season that he would have liked to have had this year. And from time to time, things don't come together year in, year out. But you look what he's done. I'm so proud of him being the winningest coach of all time at the university at the young age that he is. And I hope he has many years to add to that so nobody can ever touch it. But as far as help to him at this point, it's just being there to listen, and once in a while I make a comment, but I know he likes to talk to me because I've been through the same kind of battles, the same kind of feelings he has. I know how much he wants to win. I know how much he cares about his kids. When he talks to me nowadays, the conversation has more to do with what kind of people they are than what kind of skill they have. Day in, day out, he just loves his kids. And he wants to see them graduate. He wants to see them do well. When we talk, usually about winning and losing. He came over. I looked at him earlier. He asked me to come talk to the guys after the game. I said some things that he might not have wanted put out at that time. But I pointed out that some of the kids weren't doing things that I would like to see them do. And he can take that or leave it and build off that, or say, okay, we had a bad game. Let's remember that and go forward. But when we talk, it's usually about how things are going with the kids and with his family. And a lot of it's about winning and losing. We don't get to ragging on officials. We don't get to ragging on other coaches. It's usually just a really good, positive conversation. Sam does about as well after a game. If he's taken a whipping and feels down after a game, he is to the point, factual on his radio interviews after the game, and that's vintage Sam Walker. He's like that in the bad times. He's like that in the good times. Well, I think that during the time together, I think management skills as far as managing the players and having them set goals and set priorities and And then on the court, you know, I always thought of myself as a better defensive coach than offensive coach. I think that probably on the floor, a lot of things we did defensively, he's still trying to do. And I know he does run the passing game that we used to run a lot too. So he has picked and selected out the things that we did together that he felt good about and feels comfortable with the material he has now. That can change from year to year according to the type of players you have. Well, I listened to the game because I was really wanting him to get it. So I plug the computer in here and get to listen to some of the Lion action. And, of course, I take so much more pride in it because he's there than I would just as a past coach and my association with the university. I was really proud of him. I gave him a call. And believe it or not, he called me the second he finished his interview that night from the gym. So, yeah, it's a thing we celebrated together. Wow, I wish I would have written some names down because I'll skip some of the main ones. But, you know, the time that Sam and I put in together that was so painful was in that first year we started 5 freshmen. And we could have scheduled 500 games. Everybody wanted a piece of us because we were 5 freshmen, and you know, we won 3 games that year. But those people on that team, Jason Hall, MVP in the Lone Star Conference, best defensive player in the conference 2 years in a row. Tim Cleveland, all conference. Eric Pinter made all conference. Those were 3 freshmen together with Jimmy Foster, who was a point guard and helped hold everything together. And we added 1 player, and that bunch ended up going to the Nationals. You know, they not only got us through a district co-championship, but we went on into the national tournament. And then a couple years later, we went to the Elite 8. So they started everything. That group of Pinter, Cleveland, Hall, they've got to be big time favorites. But then we added a couple years later Kevin Miles and Daryl Waters, and both of them made All-American. Yeah, I've watched Sam with his assistant coaches, and I think that he has taken the same approach that I did, and that was to heap him up with a lot of responsibility and to watch him grow and take pride in them as they grow. Sam had the ability that if you have to come down on him hard, he doesn't take it personally, and he would expect the same out of those people that are working for him. Here it is, here are the facts, you get it done and go on. And if there's a slip up any place, that's going to happen. And he takes the same approach with his basketball players. If you're trying and you mess up, that's a whole lot different than if you're just not listening and you keep doing the same old things. Yeah, so he can come down hard on them, and I think his assistants read that and are going to be the same kind of coaches that Sam Walker is right now. As a place of growth, you couldn't beat being with Sam Walker as a young coach, because he's going to be demanding, he's going to be caring at the same time, and he's going to put a lot on you, a lot of responsibility on you. He's good with people, and he'll give you as much as you can handle. And a lot of coaches are micromanagers and won't let you get to that point of decision making that a young coach needs to be able to go out and do. I've slept a few times since we did the Lucky Lion. And show him my hat? Is that good enough, or you want more?